Hello, welcome to the Combat Chatters podcast. This week we're going to be talking about the upcoming UFC card. It's the fight night between Volkov and Rozenstruik. Should be an interesting one. With that, we're also going to be going over the featherweight co-main event between Evlov and Aig. And as well as that, we're also going to be talking about one of the, I believe it's a prelim fight. And the prelim fight is going to be between Jeff Molina and Zargaz Zimagulov. I don't believe I pronounced that quite right, but you know.
Nah, mate, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Close enough.
Close enough. It's a hard name to pronounce, okay, you know. But anyway, so for today's episode, we are joined by Harry. If you ask Harry the questions we normally do.
Yeah, so to start off, we're here with my brother Harry, the person who got me into MMA. So the first question is, who, in your opinion, is the GOAT in the UFC?
The GOAT in the UFC. It depends what you're defining GOAT as, but the one who's done the most for the sport, and I hate to be one of them guys, but it's definitely Conor who's done the most for the sport. But the GOAT, the GOAT fighter we've had in the UFC has to be George St. Pierre.
Yeah,
George St. Pierre or Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Same as the last guest. That's the exact same.
But the only reason I chose George first was because Khabib defended everything, never looked like he was in trouble, whereas George St. Pierre came back and beat the people that beat him.
Yeah, I feel like Khabib didn't stay around long enough to get tested like George did either. So.
Agreed.
Anyway, next question. Your favourite fight you've watched, sat there in front of the TV and watched?
Dan Henderson versus Shogun Breweris, an absolute there's no contest to it.
Yeah.
There's obviously other fights that are up there with it, but that is the all-time go-to bloodfest.
Yeah. And who's your favourite active fighter right now?
Oh, that's a difficult one, you know. You know me, I love a bit of Max Holloway.
Yeah.
Love a bit of Max Holloway always. My favourite fighter right now though, most exciting, it's a difficult one. Gaethje's got to be up there.
Yeah.
Just because of every fight he goes into, he puts on an absolute slugfest.
Yeah, so anyway, we're going to go from top to bottom. We're only going to break down 3 fights on this card coming up. It's a bit, name-wise, it's a bit of a shallow one, but I mean, no one's going to complain after we've just had a week off. So, Fergal, why don't you kick us off with the main event? And we've got 2 very good kickboxers. It's going to be a striker match.
You're going from top to bottom?
Yeah. So we got the puncher in Rozenstruik and we got the kicker in Volkov. So how do you think this one's going to kind of play out?
So it should be an interesting one, really. I mean, Rozenstruik, you know, he's done quite well in the UFC so far. He's not been there for very long. He comes from a very, very strong kickboxing background. His record is insane. Yeah. You know, obviously, you know, if you're kickboxing, chances are you're having a lot more fights on a more consistent basis than you would be in the UFC. So, but I think that, you know, with Rozenstruik, you know, when you watch him fight, you could tell that there's a very good martial artist there. Yeah. A very, very good MMA fighter. Not to say his fights are the most entertaining. I don't think that, you know, you necessarily look at a fighter who gets a lot of knockouts and automatically makes him entertaining.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I like Rozenstruik, and he has produced a lot of good knockouts. And you could tell he hits hard, you know. I mean, they're heavy guys, heavyweights, obviously. But I think that it should be a really, really interesting one. I don't know how a fight's going to play out, because I think that's going to be a test for Rozenstruik. I mean, he has fought some big fighters in his previous fights, and he does have a lot of, you know, fight nights in his name. But I think, you know, with Volkov, as you said, you know, about the kicker and whatnot, I think that could provide challenging for Rozenstruik. I mean, Rozenstruik can wrestle as well.
Yeah.
So whether he'll be able to, you know, defend that by, you know, maybe potentially looking to, you know, take it to the ground during that leg vent. But I'm going to go with Rozenstruik knockout just because it seems consistent with him, and I think that he's going to be able to catch him.
Well, what's your thoughts on this matchup, Harry?
It's a difficult one again. Rozenstruik and Volkov, heavyweights, like anything can happen at any time. Literally, they're possibly 2 of the best strikers in the division too. Rozenstruik can use his wrestling, but we don't see it very often.
Nah.
We do not see it very often at all. Volkov is a very, very well-rounded striker. He knows how to do everything. He's a bit slow at times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually don't know what to call for that one because heavyweight's always difficult.
Yeah.
Volkov's probably got more of a stand-up arsenal than Rozenstruik does. So I'll probably go with him just off the bat.
Yeah, I think the fight, we're going to see it very much play out as more of a puncher versus a kicker. We've seen Volkov in the past. He's got one of his best weapons are his straight shots. He throws beautiful jabs. His front kick to the body is one of the best in the UFC. We saw him hurt Derek Lewis multiple times, but we've seen him.
He's not a hard man. He's not a hard man. He's a hard man to hurt as well. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that also Rozenstruik fights at a very slow pace. He's waiting on the opponent a lot, and I think Volkov will be active enough, and his accuracy is probably the best at heavyweight we've seen. Like, he is such a technical, accurate striker, and I think Rozenstruik could catch him because we've seen.
I'm never putting Rozenstruik fully out of the game because he could just catch anyone from anywhere at any time.
He's like he can't, not as powerful as Ngannou, but he kind of plays into that factor where he can catch you with half a punch and the fight will be over. We saw
he's done it in the last minutes as well.
Exactly.
Like,
Alistair Overeem leaped into that shot and I think there was literally like 2 seconds left in that fight.
So it was one of the quickest. I think it was the quickest knockout in heavyweight history.
Yeah, one of the latest knockouts. Yeah. So
latest. Sorry, not quickest.
But talking of quickest knockouts, Rozenstruik also.
Yeah.
I mean, that Ngannou knockout was pretty brutal. He just sprinted at him straight away. Like, I remember the memes going around at the time. Like, it was one of the most untechnical knockouts we've ever seen in MMA. Just Ngannou just runs at him and flings his arms around and knocks him clean out. But they're both very talented strikers. But I think I'm going to lean towards Volkov just because he's more active. He lands the cleaner shots, but he could get caught any minute. Yeah,
it's never one you can fully put your finger on, is it, that fight?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a hard one, really, because as you said, Volkov, he's a lot more active. And you look at Rozenstruik, I mean, as I said before, about them not necessarily being the most entertaining fights to watch. You look at Rozenstruik, he doesn't take necessarily a back seat, but he's not always going as forward. He's not always as active as as much as a striker as a lot of these fighters are who have these knockout power, especially in that heavyweight division.
Yeah.
But I think what's good about Rozenstruik is that he is so good at catching them at the perfect opportunity when it comes down to that knockout, you know what I mean? And I think that's really going to play into him, especially when you're going against an active fighter like Volkov, a fighter who is going to be very active, maybe a bit more aggressive than Rozenstruik. I think that he's going to have, I think he's going to time his opportunity well. And I think he's going to land that knockout.
He's one of them fighters that no matter what pressure he's put under, he always seems somewhat composed and calm.
I mean, he was composed when Ngannou knocked him out. You saw him slip the first one back.
That was going to be one of my examples for that. But it was going to be my main example for that, to be fair. You ruined it for me.
And Orlovsky as well. Orlovsky sprinted at him.
There's been a couple times where he's just perfectly timed.
The Orlovsky knockout was his best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Literally hooked right round the top of the guard and just catched him coming in.
And to think what a monster Orlovsky has been.
Even
now.
Five-fight win streak.
But you think of him back in the day as well. How hard was that guy to knock out for a heavyweight?
Yeah, he's nuts.
He's always been a tough guy.
Yeah,
man.
No one's hurt him now unless you're Ngannou or Rozenstruik or something like that.
That's it. Ngannou, Rozenstruik, and Derek Lewis probably the hardest hitters we've ever seen in that division.
Yeah, definitely up there.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, Ngannou and Derek Lewis by far the hardest hitters.
I'd probably put Rozenstruik in third for that.
I think he needs to do a little more, but like from just examples, you can definitely put him up there in third. From first initial punch power, man. Jeez, that guy can hit. So anyway, third, you've got Rozenstruik in that one.
I do.
Me and Harry are leaning towards Volkov, but that's
could go anyway.
We've seen with these heavyweight fights, you can't nail on a prediction. If you're betting on this, my advice would be my advice would be Volkov, but then again, these guys can get knocked out.
If you're betting on this, my advice is bet on the underdog because anything could happen and you might win some money.
That is true. I don't know who's the underdog, to be fair. It's probably a pick'em, like. It's probably a very even fight on the book.
I'm shocked, because usually I look that stuff up quite quickly the week before, but I thought we had no card for 2 weeks, so when I come into this today, I was like, oh god, we got a card.
Well, we're lucky because...
do some quick research.
With the next 10 weeks is a UFC card every weekend for the next 10, so...
That's banging, man.
That's a sort of...
I hate it when we get a week off. It actually racks my brain. It makes me forget what week it is, what day it is. So fight orientated. My life is.
What we do. So Fergal, we'll give you another nice name to pronounce on the co-main event.
I'll give it a go. So Dan Ige versus Moisa Evlov. I'm not sure I pronounced either of those correctly, but you know.
Dan Ige
Dan Ige.
Evlev, I think it is. I'm not 100%, but
Evlov, who knows. Featherweight co-main event should be an interesting one, both in which have had similar amounts of fights, you know, with Ige, you know, having 20 and Evlev having 15. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I'll start off. We saw Evlev fight, was it Hakeem Dawodu? Both very good up-and-comers.
Very good up-and-comers.
And we saw the dominance of Evlev's grappling in that fight, and in this fight, I think it's going to be a lot harder to do that against Dan Ige. Dan Ige has fought way better competition, but Volkov is 15-0. He's looked. I mean,
Ige's still got a point to prove too.
Yeah. He who was it he knocked out in? It was like literally in one.
Well, that's it. Like he's been doing mad stuff, and
he's been competing at the best level for the longest time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he's been doing some mad stuff, and people still aren't really
they
shouting his name.
Yeah.
They're still not backing him.
I mean, he fought Josh Emmett in his last fight, and Emmett hit him. We know how hard
Emmett's the
hardest hitting featherweight.
Yeah. I was about to say probably one of the hardest, but he probably is the hardest featherweight hitter.
Yeah, him, Korean Zombie. They're like. He hits way harder than anyone in that division.
Probably.
Yeah, but there might be some lower ranked guys who have a power advantage that I just can't think of.
Who else are there in feathers that fucking match that? That match that power.
I think early Connor, but that wasn't pure power. That was
he was so much bigger than the actual division as well. True. So,
but yeah,
you got to take that into consideration. Some of these people have got to cut 20 pounds to get to that division. Whereas there were some people that were walking in with raw power.
I mean, so his Josh Emmett's Dan Ige's last fight was Gavin Tucker. He got the knockout in, I think it was like the first 30 seconds.
Which is impressive again, because Tucker's hard, man.
I mean, that was only Tucker's second loss in his whole career, so... Dan Ige is fighting these up-and-comers.
Granted, Tucker's he hasn't looked the strongest since he came into the UFC, but you can tell that he's got some sort of technical ability.
He's got some good beat Billy Quarantillo.
He's a very well-rounded fighter, and to be beat in 30 seconds is crazy.
I think it was the first punch. I remember watching it. It was just a straight right, wasn't it? And just dropped him down.
I don't know if it was the first punch, but it was one of them. Like it was in, like you said, it was in the first 30, 40 seconds.
It was the first punch that landed.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
This fight is very close. I am gonna say Dan Ige because very good boxer. I mean, he's beat Edson Barboza, knocked out Gavin Tucker. He's beat the competition he's fought against at this point.
But surely he's in the contention for a title run.
Yeah,
if he wins.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because with the people he's beat already, he should already. He should already be in the speaking for it. Maybe not. Yeah. He should maybe not. Oh yeah, we'll give it to Dan Ige. But he should already be in the contention for it. He should be someone that we're considering.
The thing with Dan Ige is he gets a really good win where he looks really impressive and you think, all right, this is where he's going to win a few now, and then he goes on and fights the competition the next level up, whereas Josh Emmett or the Korean Zombie or other people he's fought recently, and he just can't get over the line. He always puts on competitive fights. And that's why I'm leaning towards him, is just the experience gap in between these. I don't know how you feel on this fight, Ferg.
I'd have to say something very similar. I think the experience gap is going to be a massive, advantage on his behalf. If you look at his past 5 fights, for example, as you said, Korean Zombie, Josh Emmett, last 2 losses. Before that, he won against Gavin Tucker. Before that, he lost against Calvin Guitar. And
he's been fighting the top of the division for over 2 years now.
Exactly. And this is all, as you said, over 2 years. This is all since May 16, 2020. So in the space of 2 years, he's already fought 5 of the best fighters in the division.
Yeah.
Or maybe not 5 of the best, but 5 of the top fighters in that division.
Literally just over 2 years as well. Couldn't have been more spot on.
Yeah, so what are you leaning? How do you think? Well, obviously, we've got both very good wrestlers, but we've got that Russian Sambo style against that American sort of college style wrestling. I think it will be enough to, and I mean, we could see a Voilev take control later on, but I can't see in a 3-round fight him being able to dominate Ige.
I can't see that either. I think that Danny Ige, as I said, is going to win. I think it's going to go decision. But as you said, I think that collegiate wrestling and whatnot, is going to be a big advantage. Especially although obviously that Sambo's there. I think when you look at collegiate wrestling in the UFC, you can definitely tell the best fighters or the best wrestlers are collegiate wrestlers, former collegiate wrestlers, because that's what makes them special. At the end of the day, with the exception of maybe a couple of them who came from outside of the States, the majority of top UFC wrestlers have been collegiate wrestlers, and it really is just evidence of how impactful that the US collegiate system is, and how high a level it is for university sport, and the impact that has in professional sport.
That is literally, you hit the nail on the head there. That is almost my exact words taken from my mouth. Like the wrestling degree is so much different, and we've seen it. Yeah. We've seen it in multiple different occasions. Like there are great American wrestlers, but there's just something about the
Dagestani
Sambo style of fighting that is just so much more dominant.
Yeah, I think but we saw Voilev struggle to control Dawood on the ground, so I don't think he's on the same caliber as the Zabits or the Islam Makhachevs or Khabibs with it.
I mean, I agree, but I don't even know if I'd put Zabit quite that highly. I mean, we've obviously seen him do some some crazy shit, some crazy shit, but he hasn't showed to be a proper ground fighter at all. He is adapted, like Zabit's main adaptation in the UFC was his stand-up striking and how he approached that.
Yeah. I think
you could tell he was very well-rounded everywhere.
I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a video of him and Islam Makhachev actually fighting. I think it was Sambo, but it was pretty much an MMA match. And it was when they were both, I don't know if they were pros at the time, but him and Islam Makhachev scrambling on the ground, like seriously going for it. And we've seen how dominant Islam Makhachev
can be. Yeah.
And I mean, he did have the better of it on the ground, but Zabit so threatening with submissions.
Yeah, that's the problem, man. You can be a dominant ground fighter where you're on top, control position the whole time. But if someone's throwing up submission attempts 24/7 and nearly catching you, that's a different story. Your control time goes out the window, in my opinion, at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if they're the ones that are doing bits, they're the ones that should be scored for that.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you guys follow us on Twitter, just Combat Chats Podcast, but I put a tweet out about the Weasel. He's another YouTuber. I've watched him for a while now, but he did a video recently explaining the actual criteria of the rules, and they've been updated. I think it was in 2017, and the control time, I mean, it's good, but if it's at the end of the round, it is looked at really at who was closer to finishing the fight in that round. And that's why Caitlin Vieira beat Holly Holm this last week, because we saw she stunned her on the feet a couple times. She had that rear naked choke. Holly Holm was just pitter-pattering around and the judging is, since I've watched that video, it makes more sense now, because although I don't agree with the rules of the judging, I think they're following the criteria.
See, I think I'm a bit the opposite of you, because I think that before them rules got brought in, I really, really wanted them to be brung in.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really wanted it to be scored on damage and who does more in the, like, who does the more devastating stuff in the fight. But now it's come into place. I'm really not that sure, because it's not all about damage at the end of the day. Like, don't get me wrong, it's more impressive when you see someone really, really get hurt and stuff like that. But you can get hurt after 2 punches.
But then
put an onslaught.
It's the point, if I land 10 punches on you that don't even really rock your head back, don't phase you, and then you land 2 on me that put me on another planet, then
I could if we're going by that judging set, I could be beating the hell out of you for the first 1 or 2 rounds, but not scoring much damage, just putting a pace on you, and then you crack me with 1 or 2 massive shots, and you win it just because of the 3rd round.
Oh yeah,
I don't 100% agree with that, because if you've fully put, if you've dominated the first 2 rounds, or not like domination like 10-8 rounds, but like if you've clearly won them rounds, it shouldn't be judged on just a third.
Well, that's why I say before that I don't necessarily agree with the rules, but it's being judged correct. But I think Holly Holm won that fight against.
Well, Holly Holm did win the fight. That's the exact reason I brought this. I brought my opinion up in this situation.
I saw some people saying, but then you can look at stats on a fight, and you look at Chito Vera, and you look at Rob Font when they fought. Rob Font landed almost 150 more significant strikes. But it wasn't Vieira knocking Holly Holm around the place, knocking her down, and so it was just a couple things that almost sort of had her in trouble.
Rob Font looked great in that fight. Yeah. He got beat the hell out of.
Yeah, he did. It was way different.
That was a different. That's a fight you score on damage. But because it was such a close fight. Like, don't get me wrong, in my opinion, he lost that fight, possibly every round.
Yeah.
But it was
apart from round 1.
Apart from round 1, but like even the rounds he lost, he was competitive as hell.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to how do you say it? Go on.
What you get?
No, Avolev.
I've still not worked out myself.
Yeah, we're calling Evelev.
Evelev. I'm thinking of pronouncing.
So give your prediction on the fight. How do you think it's going to go? How do you think the wrestling is going to play out?
So I think it's going to be a very contentious bout. I think that, obviously both good wrestlers, both coming from different backgrounds of wrestling. I think that's going to be very contentious, and I think that there's going to be, a lot of good wrestling defense as well as just general, pinning, because obviously, they're both strong wrestlers. It doesn't matter how good your defense is, I mean, you're going to have a hard time defending against either of these fighters if you're on the receiving end of it. I think that Danny Ige, I think that after, as I said about the experience and whatnot, as I said previously, I think that is just going to, benefit him, give him maybe slightly more of an edge, having fought against, slightly more, not necessarily successful opponents. Well, I'd say successful. Yeah. Koreans on me. Of course. Qatar. Yeah. As in Barbuda, but having fought against, opponents like that, especially so recently within the past 2 years, I think that's giving him that edge. Wow. Having fought against, those elite fighters in that featherweight division. I think it should be, an interesting one, really. I do expect Danny Ige to edge it. I expect to get a decision. I can't see, a knockout happening. I think that they're not going to be in the position to necessarily knock each other out.
When Danny doesn't get finished.
Well, exactly. And I think that, even though, yes, there are going to be periods of pinning and whatnot, I don't think it's going to be sustained enough to necessarily be in a position to do so. I'm going to go Ige decision.
Well, to be honest, I think you nailed my view on the fight spot on with your take on it too. I think.
This is one of them fights that I haven't really fucking gone into that much, but yeah, what you're saying sounds right from their previous fights.
Yeah, I think Evelev has looked good. I just think against the Woody, I mean, he's 15-0. He's not lost a fight in his career. But against Dawodu, it was kind of just not. He didn't really take him down much. He shot like 10 takedowns. He got, I think it was like 3. It was a lot of holding against the cage. I think you can't do that with Ige. Ige's he's so energetic, and his 3 rounds he's going to be jumping around the whole time.
And yeah, he's small and stuff like that, but he's so strong. Yeah. That guy is not going to be held in a position. Like, it doesn't matter what technique you use. He is one of them guys that is just, I'm going to look like an idiot if this happens now. He's just one of them guys that just he's just so strong. Like, you can tell just from his body form and stuff like that he's just got that central balance and strength that you need for a not wrestle heavy fighter, but for someone who's good at wrestling and very good at his stand up as well.
I think
basic stand up.
I think Ige isn't, like, we haven't seen much to say he's a much better fighter than Evelev, but at the end of the day, the competition and how he's competed that's why we're got this take on the fighters, because we've seen Danny against the best in the world. We haven't quite seen Evelev against them. So I think it's fair enough that we're all going to go with Danny Ige, but I don't think any of us will be surprised if Evelev can carry on and go 16-0 and then, rise the ranks.
Again, I agree with you 100%. In this sport, you can never 100%
write anyone off.
No matter who it is. We've seen some of the biggest fighters that are on their downfall come back and beat some of the best fighters in the world. And I mean, we've seen some shocking stuff in this sport. I remember watching Matt Serra come back after 4 or 5 years off and win a heavyweight title, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, welterweight.
Welterweight, yeah. No, who was it who come back and won the...
Oh, yeah, but you're thinking of...
I'm thinking of...
I always forget, isn't it? God, this is terrible.
How have we done this? But yeah.
He beat Tim Sylvia,
yeah.
He fought Brock. I think he fought Brock Lesnar afterwards, or Randy Couture.
Randy Couture, that's the man. Yeah, my man, Randy. How did I forget that? I played MMA when he. Oh no, that was
Undisputed.
Yeah, Undisputed.
UFC Undisputed. Yeah. Anyway, the next fight we're going to touch on for not so long, because we got a few news bits we want to go on to. I'm sure you've all seen.
We've all heard some of this.
Some of the crazy stuff that's gone on this week.
Absolutely insane.
But there's one more fight we want to talk about first, though.
Quickly, Ferg will start us off. I just want to. Jeff Molina is fighting again. Another nice name for your hair, Fergs.
Zalgov Zimagulov.
Zimagulov.
I tried to pronounce it perfectly, but I think I rushed it a little bit too bit.
Zimagulov, we call him that.
Do you know that I'm not even joking? This is the most entertaining fight on the card for me.
I think
this is the one I'm looking forward to the most.
I think it should be a really good one. Really good
one. I'm really surprised that he put this on the prelims. Sorry.
Yeah, because, I mean, the main card's not stacked.
No.
I mean, for a preliminary fight, I think this is going to be really good. Jeff Molina, he's very box heavy. He throws a lot of strikes, with his arms and whatnot, aka box heavy. And it's interesting watching him fight as well, because his movement is very good. He's not necessarily the most offensive fighter always. He often moves around his opponent.
Yeah, he uses his counter strikes a lot.
He does. He's very good at moving into space and creating opportunity, and he hits with a lot of power as well. When you move around that much, and when you make up that much space for yourself, you can strike from angles which you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And he's very composed and very intelligent with his strikes and the position he strikes from.
Does keep his hands quite low though. That's one thing. Like, that obviously that makes it better for him to strike from the places he does, because you can't read it coming. But it also leaves you open to some nasty stuff.
He got hit hard in that. Iori.
Yeah, it's Aquileng.
Yeah.
Aquileng.
Aquileng.
Aquileng, I think it was.
Yeah, but
it's not been a good day for Nate, have it?
No, to be fair, the UFC just keeps getting harder and harder. Like, we see, like...
I'm usually quite good at pronouncing stuff as well, but no, that's a hard one.
We see. I can't remember what name it was, but Joe Rogan messed it up mid-interview in the cage. He was like, ladies and gentlemen, and just made it look so normal.
Honestly. But anyway, going back to what you said about, Jeff Molina and keeping his hands very low, I think that could be something which does potentially, impact him during his fight. We look at Zimagulov. He's very forward and very aggressive, and he throws a lot of strikes. And they're all very clean and accurate as well. For somebody who throws a lot of strikes, you have a lot of fighters who will come through, they'll throw a lot of strikes, throw lots of strikes over and over again. They're not always that accurate. A lot of them miss, a lot of them don't hit that well. I mean, you look at him, he hits very, very cleanly and powerfully as well.
Zimagulov. I still feel like his stand-up is a little shaky. He goes in a little wild.
Yeah, yeah.
He goes in a little wild. It's probably not essential for it's not essential for him to be fighting a fighter like Molina, because someone coming in wild like that is Molina's daydream.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that. I think this is a dream matchup for Jeff Molina, because he's going to get hit hard. But
he's got to watch out for them subs, though. That standing sub Zimagulov got in his second or third fight in the UFC.
Yeah, it was the guillotine sort of.
It was almost like a reverse guillotine too. Like he just wrapped him up in it so quickly.
It was just the arm in. It was like the front choke, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting what you said about this being, being beneficial for Jeff Molina. Zimagulov coming on so fast and forward, because obviously, we look at Molina. As I said, he moves around in space quite a lot, and he's often looking for that opportunity to get that, that powerful strike. He's a very, very powerful striker.
Yeah, he is, especially for someone so small.
Of course. But I'm thinking with Zimagulov, I mean, obviously, with Jeff Molina, he does well by getting himself into that space. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that with Zimagulov, because the amount of force
pressure,
and whatnot,
the pressure,
the requirement to cover up and whatnot. He's okay. He's a good counter puncher. But to try and counter that, especially when you've got hands low like that, it's going to be challenging. Obviously his hands are a bit lower, so he might be able to, react a bit faster because of it. But I think it should be a really challenging one. I mean, it should be a really, really good fight. And honestly, by the looks of it, it could potentially be one of the best fights on the card. There are a few other names on this card as well.
That's it. That's all right. Like, there's some big names on this card. I mean, there's not necessarily some massive names on this card, but there's some pretty big ones on this card. But this is an early prelim fight, and I'm still looking forward to it more than I am the main event.
We still got Alonzo Manifield and
we've still got some big names on the card. Just they're just not they're not your pay-per-view names. But there's some wicked fighters.
Yeah, I think Zimagulov is going to hit him clean a lot, but Jeff-Molina's got that very Mexican style.
Yeah, he's showed a chin, hasn't he? He's showed such a chin since he's been here.
She's got a very good chin, quick hands. I think Zimagulov is also looked like he's slowing down a bit. I know I don't want to sound rude by saying that, but
the composure, especially if you look at Molina's last fight. I think it was his last fight against Aquileng.
Yeah,
that last fight, he showed some really, really good takedown defense. Granted, the other guy didn't look very wrestle heavy, but he showed some really, really good takedown defense. His boxing was on form. His concentration and composure because Aquileng was also a very ruthless and rough striker. He tried to walk through you. And the pressure seemed to work against him. Like the pressure he was putting on worked against him. He got hit a lot. Hit a lot coming in, and I think that is down to a lot of the composure and concentration of Molina. I don't think I've ever seen him in a fight where he doesn't look 100% ready for it.
Yeah, if you ask my prediction, I'm going to be bold with this one. I think he'll get a second round TKO. I think he does hit hard, but it's more just the speed and how much he's hitting you. I think Zimagulov will
that was pretty much perfect.
He'll slow down a bit. I mean, for the first round, Molina's going to get hit, but I'm going Molina second round.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me is the subs, because that guy has showed that he can do it from anywhere.
Third prediction?
I mean, it should be an interesting one, really. It's quite hard to call. This might be a bit of a wild prediction. I think it's going to go Zimagulov decision. Honestly, I just think that, I feel like Molina and whatnot, yes, he's a good counter striker and whatnot. I don't think he's going to be able to counter strike as much as he thinks he's going to be able to, as much as, we think he might be able to, just because I think the pressure might just be a little bit too much. I can't see a knockout happening, not that it couldn't, they both definitely have the power to do so, but I just don't see it happening that way, so I'm going to go with Zimagulov decision.
Zimagulov's definitely got the more raw power. Jeff Molina is tag you until you flop.
Yeah. So that's all we're going to talk about. This card is it's not a massive one.
Before you end this, I really want to talk about the Costa court case right now.
No, I wasn't. That's literally what I was about to go into. Is
sorry.
I don't know if everyone should have heard by now. We don't know if this is true or not, so we're going to say allegedly before everything. This is alleged. So the story I read, Fergal, if you could pull it up because I could say this wrong. I read it was something to do with him wanting a COVID pass. A female nurse tried to stop him in the act of him stealing said COVID pass, and he proceeded to crack her with an elbow.
So so in your opinion, is this just nonsense, or has he lost his mind?
This is where it could come across that I'm being offensive, but I remember saying to you a few months ago.
Yeah, that's literally why I pulled that shit up because he's been tweeting some mad shit.
The thing is with him, he hasn't taken a lot of damage in his career, but such an egotistical guy like him to get embarrassed like he did against Izzy, like he didn't do nothing.
And that is what's rocked his career ever since that. He's been like personality-wise, not fight-wise.
Funner.
Yeah, funner, a lot funner. Don't get me wrong, I've
follow him on Twitter.
Very, yeah. Everyone follow Paulo Costa.
Unless he elbowed the woman in the face, then
I mean, follow him if you like a good time. but let's take into consideration he possibly elbowed a woman in the face.
So have you read the article? Have I got it right there?
You have. So he wanted a vaccination pass for COVID, saying that he'd been vaccinated, and I mean he hadn't been vaccinated for COVID. He's not been vaccinated.
He's made that public.
No. He's made it public that he's refused on many occasions to have the vaccination.
I've seen multiple tweets where he's proceeded to tell everyone else not to get vaccinated as well.
I mean, he's an anti-vaxxer, literally.
I think he's just.
Don't get me wrong. I haven't had the vaccinations myself. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. If it was on my doorstep, I'd probably take it.
I've always said that.
Yeah, if it was on my doorstep, mate, I'd probably take a 2-inch needle in the arm.
Do you believe this? Surely it's not 100% accurate.
I mean, you'd like to believe that a UFC fighter, went into hospital, tried to steal a vaccination card, and elbowed a nurse. I'm not sure whether he was there anyway, or whether he decided to make him way into it.
She grabbed him.
But that's the thing though. They're saying that she tried to stop him, and as he was trying to break free,
so she clearly deserved it, right?
Yeah,
that's a joke.
What I can't get over. Sorry, is Costa elbows a woman in the face, and he's being threatened with charges and everything like that. John Jones runs over a pregnant lady, and he's fighting the next week, for Christ's sake. What's going on, guys? Someone should arrest him before they arrest Costa, for Christ's sake.
I mean, I'm pretty sure John Jones slapped up his wife a few months
ago. John Jones has done some outrageous stuff, and driving down the streets of LA, popping a whack.
Again, that's a joke. If Costa did elbow a lady in the face, we want him to be locked up.
Obviously, I was just doing it for the fans.
Mate, you got to be careful online these days.
I know you do. But I mean, there's some people that say some outrageous shit and they just get laughed at.
I mean, it's an interesting one, really, because it would be interesting to see what does happen to Costa now. Obviously, these are all allegations. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's been hit with criminal charges. I think I may have just read that.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see what does happen to him. Obviously, he's had a few fights, postponed. Recently, whether this will lead to
fight a few times.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well,
weight cuts and stuff like that. It's all been rough for him lately. It's almost like he's trying to get
I think
fired.
he's taking the piss.
Yeah,
I think he could be a bit mental, but sorry, Carol.
Sorry, folks. He might just be going mental.
I mean, it is interesting to see what will happen to him because obviously he's not fought in a while. He's not really currently fighting. His fights keep getting called off for
I mean, it's just pushed back. Reasons. Him and Volkov was meant to be July, wasn't it? But it just keeps getting pushed.
I swear I had a fight recently where he literally made him go up a weight class to fight.
Vittori. I think the fight's been moved back to August with him and Volkov.
Yeah, because he weighed in at like 210 or something stupid, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Well, I think we spoke about that last week. I can't remember, but
we may have done so. But he fought about 9 months ago, so he's had quite a long layoff. Whether they'll want him or not, I'm not too sure whether he'll get cut from the organisation. He's a good fighter. He's a really, really top fighter. But after a scandal like this, and after everything which is currently going on with the UFC, a lot of which is obviously going on behind the scenes, which obviously isn't going to be aware for us, then I'm not too sure what's going to go on, whether he's going to, whether he's going to get cut, go to a different organisation or what. But we really hope that, this isn't true, obviously, because if it is, it's absolutely appalling behaviour. I could maybe potentially believe that he was trying to break free, but it doesn't mean that you elbow him.
I mean, I'm not sticking up for Costa.
You can't stick up for him, but you can't you can't defend him and you can't criticise him right now because we do not know what is going on.
He could have just been swinging his arms around trying to break free and accidentally struck her, or he could have. I can't imagine.
No, I can't.
He's like a 220-pound bloke elbowing a nurse in the face. I cannot picture that in my head.
No. I sound like
trying to break free and accidentally nutted someone in the face.
But really, really interesting story. Really, really interesting story. Some more UFC news. Masvidal calling out McGregor.
This is one I was really excited to talk about.
Masvidal and McGregor.
Because, I mean,
jeez.
I think, I just feel like right now more than any time it feels like people are desperate to fight Conor McGregor.
Well, it's because, mate, that's because Conor's showed that. That's because Conor has showed that. That's because Conor is. He showed that the fights he goes for are money fights at the moment. Like, yeah. So the whole Conor thing, Conor's been asking for a title for a while now. Like, asking for a title shot, asking for a title shot, asking for a title shot. There's been bare memes about it. There's been bare people posting stupid videos about it. Conor wants a bloody title shot, and that's clear. But he has not done anything even slightly significant in the last 3 or 4, 5 or 6 years, for Christ's sake. He's got to earn that still. Mm-hmm. Like, he might be Conor McGregor, but he has not done anything significant that proves this Conor McGregor name in a long time.
Yeah, so
that Masvidal fight, I believe, would be
I agree.
Perfect run-in for him.
I think him and Masvidal, it's been in the past, it's been kind of shrugged off by Dana and big media reporters. But why? Because these two, Masvidal has just been signed to, I think it's the second biggest ever contract signed in the UFC, money-wise. And he's just lost 3 fights in a row. So what can you do with him apart from a Nate Diaz rematch, a Conor McGregor fight? Because you can't put him on a main card somewhere because he earns way too much money. So he's got to be in a big fight. Conor,
he's a co-main or a main fighter, no matter what. Yeah. Just because of the legacy he's made for himself.
And people are going to call me a Conor McGregor nut hugger.
No.
That is a competitive fight. I don't care about size. Conor is as jacked as bloody... some steroid head. I mean, he's been accused of it a lot.
It's like bloody Rockhold or someone right now. He's like heavyweight, massive monster. He's just Irish.
Anyway, I'm going to get Ferg's last views on this. We're not going to give a prediction on the McGregor fight yet because we're fingers crossed that or the Chandler fight happens. But what do you think about the call-out? Do you think this is the right fight to make?
I mean, it would definitely be an interesting fight to watch. I think an entertaining one as well. I mean, we spoke about, obviously, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, potentially last week, sorry. And I think, obviously we spoke about how that would be, quite a good fight. I think this one could be just as good, if not better. And it's good that it's nice to see that he has, called him out because it means that it could potentially, be a future fight. So, I mean, it should be a really interesting one. As far as the prediction is concerned, obviously we can't predict because it's not confirmed. Yeah. You can't confirm something predicted.
We want to wait until we can really dig deep into the fight to predict it.
But I genuinely think this would be a really good fight. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. We're going to wrap it up there. I think it's been about 45 minutes or so quite a long one, especially considering we only went for over 3 fights.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Hopefully we can have you on again at some point.
Entertaining 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was a good one. Cheers
for
listening, guys.
Not the best card to talk about, but it was definitely a good podcast.
We had some good news to talk about.
Yeah.
They're very interested with Paulo Costa. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. As I said, be sure to follow us on our Buzzsprout, Spotify, YouTube,
Twitter,
whatever you can get on.
Combat Chatters podcast.
Twitter, he loves Twitter.
Twitter all the way.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I'll listen to us next week, hopefully, where we'll be talking about the Rozenstruik card. Hopefully, it pops off. and then as well as that, as a good card afterwards as well.
Yeah, hopefully we'll also be talking about the pay-per-view card. We'll give predictions. We don't always give predictions, but we'll really dig deep into that one and give predictions. So next week it won't be a lot about this card. It will mainly be predictions for the card after.
I will definitely be joining you if I've got the time off.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much.
That's a card that I want to talk about.